Are you ready to play some chess? Well, first you need to know the rules. So here we go. So this is the history of chess. It's a brief history, and then I'm going to go over basically how the rules work, okay? So here we go. So early history. Game can basically be traced back about 1,500 years. It could have been played before that, but what we do know is it probably originated in India, spread through Persia, which is basically current Turkey and Middle East. And then basically Muslim brought the game to Southern Europe in about the 15th century. Once in Europe, pieces began to be depicted as influential figures of the medieval time period, and so that's why you see like the knight and the bishop and things like that. Was most played by royalty up until the 18th century, which is about the 1700s, when the game finally reached the populace, which is basically regular folks like you and me. Make sure you write down this right here, okay? And make sure you write down this right here. So, rules and standardization. So, organized competitive chess was first seen in the 15th century with those royalty, right? They would be playing against each other, the royal class, right? Competitively. And then rules were standard. In most cases, rules depended on where you were at. So, like by region, everyone had a little bit different. But basically, by the late 1800s or late 1700s, basically they did have standardized rules. So, the first world chess champion was Wilhelm Steinitz in 1886. The World Championship is ruled and controlled by the World Chess Federation. The first computer to beat a human was the IBM Deep Blue in 1997, although it has gone back to a human, but I think the last one has been a computer. Actually, yes, I know there has. And then there is concern of cheating with smaller and more compact technology. As technology gets smaller, there is like people are concerned that people might be able to cheat with the use of that technology. All right, setup and moves, and this you need to know the moves for the test. So making sure that you know this, and after you play it, you should know it, right? And that's what we'll be doing. So chess is played on a square board of 8 rows. The colors of the 64 squares alternate and are referred to as light and dark squares. Chessboard is placed with a light square at the right hand end of the rank nearest to each player. Okay, so basically this is basically how it should look like. You should have the light or a white, right? Should be here on the bottom right hand side. It should be white or light, and should be set up as follows. Okay, and so you can see it here. You have basically the king, the queen, the bishop, the knight, the rook, and then the pawns. So what is the pawn? The pawn may move forward to unoccupied square immediately in front of it on the same file, or on its first move it can move 2 squares along the same file, or the pawn may capture an opponent's piece on the square diagonally in front of it on the adjacent file. By moving into the square, the pawn has 2 special moves: the en passant, captures, and pawn promotion. So basically this idea here is you have, this is where it starts. On the first move it can go 1, 2, okay? If there's an opponent here, you can move into the opponent and take their piece. Same, once it's out on the board, it only can go 1, and it can go diagonal to get a piece. At the end here, right, maybe you are able to get to the end. If you get to the end, or if you take a piece, you get the promotion and you can get any one of your pieces back. Most likely you'll be taking your queen if it was taken. The knight moves to any of the closest squares that are not on the same rank file diagonal. Thus the move forms an L shape: 2 squares vertically and 1 square horizontally, or 2 squares horizontally and 1 square vertically. The knight is the only piece that can leap over other pieces, so it can go over other pieces. It's the only one that can do that. So as an example, right, it can go up 2, over 1, over 2, up 1. Okay, down 2, over 1. Okay, over 2, down 1. So it can only move in an L, right? L, L, right? L. So, and if there was a piece here, it could jump right over it. Okay. Rook can move in any number of squares along any rank or file, but may not leap over other pieces. Along with the king, the rook is involved during the king's castling move. We'll talk about the castling move here in a minute. So basically what you have is this one can only go straight, side to side, or straight forward and back. Very easy. Bishop can move any number of squares diagonally, but cannot leap over other pieces. And again, can only go diagonal, right and left, or right and left here diagonal. Okay, but it can go in either direction, front or back. Queen is probably your best piece, combines the power of the rook and bishop, can move any number of squares along rank and file and diagonal, but may not leap over other pieces. So again, it basically can move pretty much everywhere. It can't do an L, but it can pretty much do everything else. King moves one square in any direction. The king can move, which is called castling. It involves also moving a rook. So basically, this is the idea here. What you do is, oh, sorry, this is the king. So basically, what you can do is, if the rook hasn't moved from the beginning of the game, right? You would then move the rook over, okay, and the king over, and it basically protects. You can only do it once throughout the game. But you can move it over. Now, or you can do it on the other side, right? This would go over here. It protects the king, right? So castling would move over here, okay? So you can do it either way with either rook, but you can only do it once. End of the game, okay? There's several ways of winning. Checkmate. The other person resigns. There's a loss of time. We're not going to be doing time, but there is a loss of time in official game. Forfeit by cheating or violations. That's a win. Then you have draw by agreement. Basically, you both agree that we're not going anywhere. Or stalemate. You keep going and going and going until it's finally called. And then others that are extremely rare, but we're not going to cover those. These are the most common. That's it, yo. You ready to play chess? So we'll see. I don't know. Sometimes we do a tournament. Sometimes it's just a single game. We'll see how much time we have and how many people we have. But that is how you play chess. So let's see how we do.